Hey, what's going on, guys? Xbox All in China, host Sega Forever. I know I normally don't do these Saturday podcasts, but I wanted to do a really quick one, give you guys my thoughts on the Michael Pachter interview that Dustin Legare did on his channel. If you guys caught the podcast yesterday or last night, the Wrecking Crew podcast, thank you guys. If you did stop by, or if you guys watched it later, much appreciated. It ran a little bit long. We tried to keep it a little bit short. I know it was over, like, I think 3 hours, three and a half hours. But at least I didn't run to 4 or 5 because easily we could do that. Because basically in my podcast, I treat it like a hangout. Hey, what's up, Unlimited? Hey, dude, you're up, bro. I wasn't sure about the time difference and stuff like that. If you want to jump in, let me know. We can talk about the Michael Pachter interview. That's what I'm going to talk about on this podcast specifically because I actually got up and went to the gym this morning and I actually listened to it again. And I actually like a lot of the points that he made. When I originally watched it, there's a couple things I picked up on, but listening to it again this morning, especially after getting some sleep, right? There's a couple other things that he had mentioned, and kind of stuff that I talked about that I really liked that he said. So yeah, let me know, dude. I could if you want to jump in here. Hold on. In fact, I'll just send you the link just in case. I'm not sure if you're busy today. I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I wasn't sure if Sega Man was going to do something. And then I saw he did a video yesterday, man, that I had no idea about. Hold on, brother. I'll send it to you. But I saw that he did a video, which I didn't know. So I got to catch up on that. I still haven't watched Hundred's video from the other day where he was talking about the reactions of people with the Bethesda date, which I saw your video and absolutely agree that it was ridiculous, to say the least. So copy that. I want to send you a message. Oh, I don't know if my Twitter's working here, dude. Oh, here we go. So I am a bit behind. I meant to listen to it this morning when I was at the gym, but I just gravitated towards when I opened up my YouTube, man. That Dustin video, Michael Pachter video was on my history, and I started listening to it again. And honest with you, man, I'm glad I did. Because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that they had put on there. Dude, what's going on? Paste. There we go. All right, dude. I sent you. Wait, hold on. Yeah, I sent you the link if you want to jump in. Hey, what up, Ados? What's up, gamers? Pachter Slam Sony. Yeah, dude. That's what we were kind of talking about last night on the podcast. Yeah, dude. He absolutely killed it. He killed those guys. And the funny thing about it, which is what we'll talk about on the podcast. Yeah, no problem, dude. Oh, Midnight Suns? Oh, dude, did you like it? Do you like that game, bro? I was looking at picking it up, but then I didn't. Dude, I'm an old school Marvel comic book guy, and sometimes that gets in the way of me enjoying stuff. And when I saw Midnight Suns, but then they have basically the Avengers in there, right? And I don't know how the story's going to be like, but then they also have that card element, which I'm not opposed to, but I don't know if that's my cup of tea. Now, if it was on Game Pass, I'd definitely try it, and I might like it, right? So yeah, let me know what you think, brother. Did you put up videos? Let me know if you put up videos. Hey, what's up, Gogo? Saw that interview. It was really good. The Destin one. Yeah, that was awesome. Normally, I don't watch Destin's channel. Sometimes his videos will be on my history just for the simple fact that I'd be listening like if I'm driving or if I'm in the gym, dude, and I'm like on a back-to-back set. I'm doing like multiple movements at the same time. I can't just stop to switch the video. And for some reason, I get his videos. I should actually turn that off on YouTube. It automatically switches to either his video or Dreamcast guy, who I absolutely cannot stand. It's almost like YouTube knows I don't like these dudes, and they put those videos there. And I know the algorithm, the way they're popular, or at least their videos get a lot of views. But given my history of the people I listen to, you think it would automatically go to, like, I didn't listen to Hundreds video he did on Wednesday, I think Wednesday or Thursday. So you would think that it would go to his video since I watch his videos all the time, or he bought, or somebody like that. I thought the game was going to be terrible, but surprisingly, I'm having fun playing. Oh, okay, that's cool, man. That's cool. I'm planning to do a podcast with Hebot to talk about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That's on Netflix. And I was going to actually shy away from that until Hebot talked to me about it. And I'm glad he did, dude, because I actually liked it. There's some stuff I definitely didn't like about the show. But then I'm not the biggest He-Man fan. So, but, having him as the ultimate He-Man fan, and, Hebot knows his stuff and he's honest. If he doesn't like something, he'll say he doesn't like it. He just doesn't fanboy out. It's like a lot of us with the Xbox stuff, dude. If Xbox does something bad, right, we'll talk about it, or something we need to address, we'll talk about it. But we're so busy dealing with all the fanboy stuff, right, and all the console crap. The algorithm priorities, negative content. I hate it. Yeah, yeah, that too. Good point. I forgot about that. Which going back to, that was refreshing about Michael Pachter being on Dustin's program, dude. You got a perspective that you don't normally get when it comes to the active, not just the Activision Blizzard deal, but just Microsoft in general, and Xbox, right? When you look at what he was saying, which we'll get into, man, because honestly, when there's people that are going to be pissed off about it, especially if you're a Sony guy, you're not going to like what he's saying, but he was just speaking truth, man. And the great thing about Pachter is his background, dude. I want to consider him like a hardcore gamer. Not definitely. He has some gaming pedigree, right? You can tell by the interview some of the stuff that he's talking about. He's been in the industry as a gamer, casual at best, if I'm being nice, right? But still, he knows the industry somewhat. He partakes in the industry, right? I won't take that away from him. But like I said on the podcast last night, he wouldn't be my go-to for anything, like how we're talking about, Marvel's Midnight Suns, right? I would trust your judgment more than his, even if you recommend it, just because I know that you're a comic book guy and you're a DC guy, which is the same thing like me. I'm a Marvel guy, but I'll play DC games as well. So, by the way, Evil Dead 2 movie is free for Game Pass Ultimate subs. Yeah, yeah, I saw that. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I still haven't copped it though. I should. I need to go and actually look at all of those and then start, because they're giving away a lot of stuff on a lot of different games. Sorry guys, let me start. I'm trying to do a couple things at once. Yeah. Yeah, Eidos, man. Did you like it, dude? I love that, dude. That interview was awesome. Because, like I said, the sad thing about that interview, right, is Dustin himself is supposed to be an Xbox guy, or he covers the Xbox stuff. Now, of course, they work for IGN and they do the multi-platforms, and they have to talk about gaming in general, right? But from what I understand of him, just like with what's that dude named Shaggy? Um, that's on IGN. In fact, their IGN podcast, dude, they should be an Xbox centric um, podcast. They say they are, but I'm talking totally centric and not like fanboy stuff, which is what I liked about the interview. Michael Pachter came in there. Michael Pachter, even though he doesn't consider himself an Xbox guy, he spoke on things like an Xbox person should, like an Xbox podcast should do. Especially if you promote yourself as an Xbox podcast, especially if you're an influencer who says you're an Xbox guy, unlike a lot of the guys that represent us on this YouTube community, that gets the most views. Right? These guys, when you listen to them, sometimes they talk positively, a lot of times they talk negatively, and the worst part about it, they never build up the good stuff that Microsoft does to combat all the negative and false narratives that are out there. It's up to guys like me. Unlimited's been doing that for what 2-3 years, brother. I know that you've been standing on your soapbox doing that and doing it quite well. I might add on your videos on your channel, right? It takes people like us, and technically we shouldn't be doing that. I would just like to. There will become a day, and I'm doing it more and more, that we should all just be sitting back and enjoying what Xbox is providing us, and not like I would more than happily walk away from this YouTube channel, because the only time I do videos, right, is to combat a lot of the false narratives and hypocrisy that's out there. Like Unlimited, you said last night, you can't stand hypocrisy. I'm the same way, right? If it's one thing, like if Nintendo does something, I don't care. Even if PlayStation does something, I don't care then. But the reason why we talk a lot about PlayStation is we got to deal with their fan base, which is horrible. And then on top of that, we got to deal with our own side, right? Because these guys are weak. And that's why I like the interview most importantly, man, because Michael Pachter just brought it. And then like he wasn't fanboying, he wasn't hating, he was just spitting out just simple truths. He's just spitting out facts, as simple as can be, right? mean, he has no real skin in the game. So he was coming from kind of an outside perspective with his area of expertise, again, in the financial area, right? Which I can appreciate, dude. The dude is a successful guy. Again, like anything else, dude, I wouldn't listen to people just because they have some kind of you know doctorate or some kind of degree. I mean, you can take it as it is, right? But then for me, man, I would rely on the people in my circle or in my group or the guys that are in this chat right now, right? Because I know that you guys actually play games. I know that you guys have Game Pass. I know that you guys at least own at least one, either the Xbox Series X or S, so can speak intelligently on it, right? Which these guys actually show themselves, especially in the Xbox community, because they talk about Game Pass not having games or the single player first party narrative, which they get that from the opposition and the gaming media, which is sad to me, and that's why you see that interview that Michael Pachter did, man. He just came in and Dustin, I loved it because Dustin asked the question to everybody. First he recuses himself, right, of being a financial guy and having stock in these companies, right, because he doesn't want to get in trouble, right. That's one of the things. Like I guess the with Bush Securities, that firm he works for, if not just himself, but if anybody's representing a company that could be a conflict of interest, he says he can't own stock in it, right. So there's things that's required of them, and so that's the first thing they talked about, which is understandable. But right into the next question, Destin asked them, so what do you think about the CMA or the the AKB deal? Is it going through? And without a hesitation, dude, he's just like, nope, it's going through. There's nothing they can do to stop it, right? And again, dude, this dude is not an Xbox guy, right? When he talks about Xbox or PlayStation and stuff like that, he talks about them more in his areas of expertise. And then, of course, he has his games that he talks about that he likes. So he brought up some games that were old, dude, that like Army Man and stuff like that. I was like, dude, that's old school. You know what I mean? And it's not probably the games that most people would expect to come out of somebody who's a gamer, especially when you're opining about stuff back in the 90s and early to mid 2000s, right? There's definitely other games out there that were better. But maybe that's his preference, right? So I'm not going to hit the dude on that. But I just think it's sad that somebody like him, who doesn't have that pedigree as far as gaming is concerned, can speak more intelligently on this whole AKB deal than the actual guys that are actually the journalists in the industry and people who claim to be Xbox dudes. Again, the PlayStation guys, dude, they lie, right? They're hypocrites, right? It's all about their brand and their brand winning as everything's starting to come out. Which again, I said on the podcast, that's the main thing I like about this deal, and why I wanted it to go on. I know a lot of people are tired of hearing about it. Some people just wanted to go through so they can get caught on Game Pass, but like me, like if you guys were like me, a lot of us who are hardcore COD in the beginning, man, I kind of dropped off of it, man. And one of the things that booted me off of COD was Halo 5 and Titanfall. When I realized how bad COD servers were, and I couldn't, after playing 5 and playing Titanfall, and the connection and everything just ran a lot better than COD, that took me off of COD. And then I got into Overwatch because my daughter started playing shooters. Then I switched over to that, and then I've been jumping around ever since, playing a lot of different games. And Modern Warfare, even when that released, I didn't get it, even though I heard a lot of good stuff about it, especially from old school COD guys. I didn't pick it up at first, and then eventually I ended up buying it on sale. Because if I'm having problem with the network, and it's probably because of where I live, man. If I'm having issues with the network, that I don't appreciate, dude. I don't care if I get killed 100 million times, dude. As long as everything's on the up and up, you're not cheating, or the connection's solid, and you're just a better player than me, dude. Because I'm not there to win any awards and stuff like that, dude. I'm just there to have fun. But when the experience, just like any other game, dude, even though it's COD, it's no different. And as big as COD is, it's no different than from any other game that you see out there, right? You just want to have a great experience, and when that experience is broken, dude, that takes away from what you're trying to enjoy, right? And that's one of the problems I've had with COD. So I'll play COD like if I have some time sparingly, if I just get this itch that I want scratched as far as playing a shooter. But I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I got Halo new season started. I'm gonna pick up the new season. I know they made a lot of changes. My problem with Halo being, again, the connection. Surprisingly, I've never had a problem with them until this version of Halo Infinite, and I think it's because they went to the live service. So there's a lot of times I end up waiting and not being able to get into games. It takes me upwards of 3 or 4 minutes to get into a game, and sometimes I just don't have the time. But I know they made some improvements, man. I know Forge is on fire. I definitely want to check that out. The new season looks awesome, right? They've made some changes at 343. They look like they're trying to get their stuff together and stuff like that. Um, Again, and this is not hate. This is just being honest. But Halo as a live service game, I think they could have done better. But Halo's Halo. Like there's a lot of stuff. The single player game's awesome. I'm just gonna forego waiting for my kids because I didn't finish the campaign. Because Halo's just one of those games that I love the campaign. If not more so than the multiplayer. I love the multiplayer too, but I love the campaign. I love the story of Halo. Right. So I'm definitely gonna jump in on that. Unfortunately, I bought the season pass for Overwatch 2, which I wanted to kind of finish that because I'm almost finished with that. I'm like 20, I got 20 levels to finish that up, and then my daughter's playing that. So when she comes over, we kind of tag team on that stuff, and we have a lot of fun, man. My daughter loves Overwatch, which I'm glad because she's a big fan. And she's looking forward to Starfield coming out too. My daughter's like getting into Bethesda games, so that's another thing we can share. But yeah, getting back to Michael Pachter, dude, it's just again, it's sad. It's sad that it takes somebody like him to speak on Xbox things the way IGN should speak on Xbox. And I'm talking IGN across the board, right? Because a lot of this is why we call them, you know, what do we used to call them? I had used to have a name for them, but I forgot what I used to call them. But dude, you can tell that they're biased. Dude, their bias is on display for everybody. And the sad thing about them is because they're that generation that came in on PlayStation, so they don't look at it as biased. They just know PlayStation. They've known PlayStation. They've grown up in the idea that PlayStation has totally dominated the gaming industry, which is not true. They've had ups and downs. Everything is cyclical in gaming, right? Just like you're seeing right now, right? And again, by the AKB deal, I loved it, right? Because as it's gone on, and Sony is a company. I said last time on the podcast, they lie, right? And the funny thing is that Sony doesn't look at it as lying; they just look at it as business, dude. So when you're a person that's like that, if you've been around anybody that constantly lies, if they keep on talking, they'll get caught up in their own lie to the point where they'll start believing their bullcrap, right? And it takes something like Microsoft saying, you know what, we're gonna buy Activision, King Blizzard, you know, something like that to rock them, and then they get put back on their heels, and then all the truth starts coming out. Am I surprised with a lot of the stuff that Pachter said? No. Am I surprised a lot of the stuff that Sony's admitting to? No. Myself, he bought everybody in the core group, Unlimited, you, everybody in this chat. At some point in time, dude, we knew that Sony was lying. That we knew that Sony was doing a lot of negative stuff. Right? And what you're seeing right now is just everything is being forced to come out, right? Because Sony was going around, you know, as we joke around, about Jim Ryan flying. When somebody's doing something like that, dude, I mean, either they're doing out of righteous indignation, right? Where they're doing it for the sake of justice or something like that, or they're trying to hide something. Right? And knowing Sony for all these years, being a Sony file back in the '90s, stuff like that. I told that story on my channel, man. How I used to buy everything, their electronics and everything, and how big they were. Look, dude, I'm just being honest. Dude, I know how they run their business and stuff, and they're not above telling half truths. They're not about telling no truth. Right? It's whatever they need to do to get over, and they've always been like that, dude. I don't know. There was a time that they brought something to gaming. Um, One of the things I used to give them credit for is actually become a bane in gaming, which is the free agency and the normies. Well, two things: the free agency market, right? Because they're the ones that brought it in. It expanded gaming, so they're bringing in a lot of the normies. I told the story about how guys I was stationed with when I was in the Navy. One dude waited for me to come back. Wow, dude, I'm just getting the chat now. Dude, this thing is slow. I'm so sorry, guys. But this dude waited for me, man, and this guy was, basically jock dude, cool guy, man. He's like a cool guy to hang out with. But he would make fun of people that play video games or write comics, people like me. Well, he didn't do it to my face, and we did it jokingly. But one day I came back to the barracks, dude. He's waiting outside of my room, and he's like, "Hey, man, do you play video games, right?" And I looked at him like, "Dude, I play video games." And he's like, "Oh, dude, do you know?" And so basically, what he was doing, he was asking me about PlayStation because he wanted to play Madden. Okay, so he wanted to play games, man, but he didn't want people to know. That's a lot of you guys that are as old as me know that's how it started, right? That's how all these guys started coming in, right? And this is why, and you see it today because that's how one guy will buy one console, and then just buy COD or buy Madden or play FIFA, right? Or play even what's the game? The racing games that Sega Man likes. F1 and Tuck like those games. Right? There's people that are like that do that. Right. I'm a DC fan. I'm a DC guy, but I still like Marvel. It's not like Xbox and PlayStation or PS is overrated. Marvel comic history is as important as DC's. It's modern stuff that's off-putting. Yeah, I agree. 100% unlimited. I'm the same way. I grew up as a comic book guy, right? And I especially, you know, I like what Daya interview with Sega Man. She was talking about that. I grew up the same way. We didn't have money, and this stuff was looked down upon. It wasn't important. What was important was paying the rent, paying the utilities, and having food, right? And it was rough, man. I mean, it was. And I don't look at it as rough. That's just the way my life was. But if I ever thought of like I never even asked my grandmother for toys or comics and stuff like that at all. You know how hardcore I am, man. Is I actually was getting our school actually started serving like other items like lunch, so we have to have money that we can buy lunch. So my grandmother was giving money from, she worked and then she gave me money, and I had to take that $10 she gave me, and that was for the whole week. And what I would do, bro, is I was starving myself because I wanted to buy comic books. So I wasn't eating at school, right? And we hardly had food at home. But then I would go to 7-Eleven and buy the latest X-Men comic book. That's when I started collecting. And then one day my grandmother was like, she came into my room. I don't know, my grandma was scary, dude. She like just knew when I wasn't doing stuff. Right. And then so she came into my room, looked around and found my comic book. She thinks she would have found like porn or something. Dude, she beat my ass, dude. Because she saw the comic books, dude, and she knows that I don't have money, and there's only one way I could have money. Right. And then, dude, I got beat down. So, I got the scars for the cause. I laughed hard. Pause. Yeah, I'll catch up with the chat now, guys. Sorry. Only thing I didn't like was Pachter's giving Ryan credit for getting a 10-year offer. Oh, which Jim Ryan. Oxford offered that deal to many parties. Ryan crying. Oh, crying Ryan. Yeah, that's awesome. Induced spot. Well, I did like that. You remember what Dustin said, right? Dustin said to him, "Oh, but isn't that Sony being smart? Holding out." And then Pachter put the whammy on him, right? He's like, "No, that's stupid." And they're whining. Like he told him that, and he basically said, like, okay, well, if you're saying that getting a 3-year deal, which is what they originally got, getting into a 10-year deal is smart, then okay, yeah, well, fine. But as we all know, dude, especially when Hat Tip to Unlimited, who actually talked about this, Unlimited, what's the lady's name? Lulu, the Activision. I don't want to get her name wrong because I saw that tweet where she went after that dude for getting her title wrong. But she's a communications person, right, at Activision. And so she put Jim Ryan on blast, dude, where he basically said, which we all know, dude, this shouldn't surprise any one of you guys, right? And I know you guys know this. This I'm not sitting here saying that I'm clairvoyant or anything like that. We know how Sony operates. So when she said that, I wasn't surprised. Basically telling them, I'm not here to make a deal. I'm here to stop your merger, right? And basically put him on blast, which I love. Again, why the ABK deal continues on. And if continues on, I'm pretty sure that's not the last thing we'll see. Yeah, yeah, I saw that, dude. That was, I mean, and then you saw that too at Jim Ryan, dude. Jim Ryan, or not Jim Ryan, but Dustin, man. There's a lot of times if you want. This is why I don't watch his videos, man. There's a lot of times he'll be talking about Xbox stuff, then he'll make like this association between Xbox and PlayStation. Like if PlayStation is messing up, then he'll say something like, "Well, Xbox back in 1997 did this and that kind of crap, which I can't stand." Right? He makes that comparison. I'm like, dude, this is not about Xbox, dude. In fact, you're supposed to be talking up Xbox, right? But that equivalency they like to do because Sony's a piece of trash. Then you get Michael Pachter come on there and he just laid it out. They're whiny, right? They're ridiculous. How can you ask for a deal like this? How can you not be appreciative? How can you not sign? I don't know Dustin much. Was he a Sony fanboy before? Or where did he come from? Oh, Dustin. Unfortunately, Dustin, like, what's that guy, man? Unlimited dude, as Zink would say, Unlimited boy. I can't remember his name, dude. I'm drawing a blank. But they all worked at IGN, right? And they come from that lineage of gaming. I hate to say lineage. I'm not even gonna say that because it's not worthy of them to say that to them about them. But they're those those gamers that came into a time where you can tell they definitely grew up in a Sony age. This is why their journalism is slanted. And I know Sony sponsors a lot of their stuff. There's that involved and stuff like that. But basically, Moriarty, Colin Moriarty, and Ryan McCaffrey. Right? They're all these guys come from that background. right? There, when I was growing up, dude, you had guys like Dan Shu and all these guys. There were gamers who became journalists. Because back in the day, you remember, dude, you didn't have the information you have now. So if you wanted to know anything about gaming, man, you had to read a lot of print stuff, or you had to know people in the industry. You had to do footwork, right? Just like knowing about your band back in the day. You can't just hit a YouTube video and watch somebody's. Sorry about the background noise. And watch somebody's video like you did back in the day, man. Like a lot of people that were hardcore fans of big bands, dude. You followed them on tour, man. You actually went to the concert. Some of those concerts you would do like a state tour, man, just to go watch their stuff, right, and listen to them. Right? And that's the journalism I grew up with, man, because these guys were gamers first and journalists second, so they didn't have the biases and stuff like that. Just like Unlimited up here, right? Like me and Unlimited, I know I'm older than him, but we come back from this is the comic book. This is the typical comic book person, dude. You have your favorites, like in gaming, you might have liked Sony or Nintendo, um, or you might have liked Sega, dude. But if somebody gave me a SNES, yeah, I would cop that. I wouldn't have no problem because we like games, right? That's the difference between then and now. Same thing in gaming, man. A lot of these guys just grew up on Sony. Hey, what's up, Tool Man? Yeah, dude. Thanks for stopping in, guys. I normally don't do this on a Saturday, but I had some time. I'm just waiting for my kids to finish up their classes. My son's testing. My daughter's in a scholarship class, dude. I didn't have any of that stuff when I was growing up. I mean, these people are like, I feel like they have jobs where they're going to like training and stuff. It's kind of funny. Yeah, too, man. Thanks for stopping in, brother. Appreciate it, dude. I love your perspective. Google poll. I don't know Dustin much. Oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Google, I said that. Yeah, so that's where he comes from, dude. That's that background they have. So again, when they talk about stuff, they think they're being they think they're being talking about things in general, but you can sense the bias. And again, dude, if you guys are Xbox guys and you have not watched it, again, I'm not trying to promote Dustin's channel, but it was a great interview because Dustin didn't talk much. That's number one. But then Michael Pachter just went in on Sony, and again, it's not because he hates Sony. He's just calling it as it is. Sony as a supposed market leader, as having 80% to 20% in Europe and all this stuff and all the whining that they're doing. He just called them out. And again, when Dustin was trying to counter, I knew Dustin wanted to say stuff, but he couldn't, right? And that's what made it so great. Michael Pachter just ran that whole show basically. And I know there's a couple things. There's like some of the Xbox brethren don't agree with what he said, and we'll talk about a couple of those things. But overall, man, he just put Sony on blast. And again, it's not out of hate or fanboying or console warring, dude. It's just honest facts and truth, which guys like Dustin and IGN, Unlocked, and all these and Boom's channel and all these other guys, and even Red Dragon, who lost his mind, that used to be in the middle of the road, right? This is the stuff that these guys should be saying, because you see the trouble that Sony is in now, right? And they're in that trouble because they're not held accountable. Number one, by the gaming media, which they should be, right? And number two, by the gamers, including their fan base, dude. Because when all of this stuff starts to fall apart, as Pachter was talking about, man, Sony's in trouble. He said when this Activision deal goes through, and he basically told Destin straight up, as Destin asked him, is this going to go? Is this going to be blocking? He goes, no, it's going through. It's going through. And he said that, and when it does, Sony's in trouble, man. Because Sony, again, we've talked about it on our various podcasts and stuff like that, and on videos. Sony. I've said this personally. Sony runs their company like it's still the '90s or early 2000s. And that time has passed. And it was interesting that Pachter brought up a lot of the studios who are no longer around, and now we're finding out. We knew a lot of us have been doing this a long time. Knew this, but it's starting to come into light for everybody in the general audience that Sony had a lot to do with that. Either by their business model, either taking an active role in the demise of studios and stuff like that. Again, you guys know I'm a Sega fan, so I still hold on to that grudge, right? That they, the stuff they did to Sega and the Dreamcast, and just by their business practices and the stuff that they do. Because I remember that. I forgot who brought it up in the podcast last night, dude. I'm sorry. I give you credit if I could remember. Unlimited, if that was you, man. I know it was one of us that was saying it, or one of you guys that was saying it. But I remember, man, was that's the reason why some of the guys that I loved that did Sega games, especially for the Saturn, didn't do games for the Dreamcast because they were tied in with Sony, right? And the biggest one, of course, being EA. A lot of you guys know that. Jim Ryan flying around the world in 80 days. Yeah, truth, Issa, truth, man. Dude, I love to see his freaking fire miles, man. He could probably come to Hawaii like 20, 30 times, dude. Expensive as a ticket is to come here. I looked into his bio, another IGN dude. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he went solo. There's sometimes like he'd be okay and stuff, but like I said, dude, they're just from that era of growing up in a Sony age, man, and it shows, dude. He'll do that on his videos, so that's why I don't really watch his stuff. The reason, honestly, I watched it because I wanted to see Pachter, because Pachter's been saying stuff ever since the AKB deal was announced that some might construe as pro Microsoft, and it's not pro Microsoft; it's pro business. And again, like the realist was saying last night, don't get it twisted. You know, Michael Pachter is a financial guy, and he has a bottom line. So you got to take that into consideration. In fact, that's what you need to do with any type of information that you're getting out of a lot of different people, right? You just take it in and process it. Whatever works for you, take it, use it. Whatever you see that's good or honest and true, then you're like, okay, fine. Or if it's just his perspective, respect it. But ultimately, make your own choice, man. I'll always be like that. So shout out to the realist. He was mentioning that last night. Yeah, yeah. Same old dude. Never change. Payola from Sony likely, yeah. You know, and I would actually respect Sony's business model if it was organic. I know I use that word a lot, and what I mean by that is if somebody if you're coming out with a game and you notice or you believe the hype that Sony is the market leader and that they have 150 million consoles. I don't know, that thing's always changing. But there might be a release that they have 230 million consoles. But sometime today, right? It's always in flux. So if you're one of those people that believe that, and you're a developer putting out a game, naturally, dude, if they have the bigger user base, right? If they decided to do that, as like, okay, well, I'm going to go with PlayStation, because that's maybe what the Japanese guys are doing, and I don't care that they do that, dude. If they're making a conscientious business choice to go with Sony because they have the bigger base, right, and stuff like that, that's fine. I respect that. I have no problem with that. Because at the end of the day, dude, I don't have a PlayStation. I'll never get a PlayStation. So I made that conscious choice. Like if that's your choice to play the game, I just won't be able to play your game, right? Now, on the flip side of that, if they find out the truth, which is what Sony admitted to, right? A lot of people are not buying the games, right? I don't care if you have 150 million subscriber base, or I mean, install base, dude. If only 10,000 people are buying your game, or let's be nice, if you say you sell 10 million copies of your game on day one, right? Because that's where you make the profit. That's where you want to do it. That's where you want to make the profit. Not from the price reduction and stuff like that. You're still getting paid, but it's not the money that you want to make, especially to cover all your costs, right? So if you're doing that, and then you find out like, okay, this is not working, and then you come over, you start talking to Microsoft, right? And then you start saying to Microsoft, like, hey, can we put it in Game Pass? And then you bring it over to Game Pass. Well, there's other games on Game Pass that are totally awesome. So you kind of missed that boat as a developer, right? You should have came in on day one, right? Because that's a Game Pass thing, right? It's almost like Netflix, right? When something hits, right, and then they're promoting it, that's when people are going to be like, you want to catch as many people as possible, right? Because what ends up happening is that there could be a drop off, even if you're the new hotness, right? Like big title, right? There's definitely going to be drop off because there's other games coming in, right? And there's games already in there, and then people are buying games on top of that. So it's a vicious cycle on Game Pass, something that we can address, but we're too busy dealing with all these ponies. Um, so if they decide finally to bring their game over, I'm like, okay, well, you brought your game over, dude, but I got Guilty Gear. The new Guilty Gear just dropped. Wolong just dropped. I still haven't finished Hi-Fi Rush. I was playing High on Life, but then there was a bug in the game, and I got stuck, so now I got to restart the game. So I'm factoring all this stuff in as a gamer, as an Xbox guy, as a guy who supports the ecosystem, and then you're bringing over your game, saying, well, here's my game now. I'm like, okay, well, dude, you're gonna have to go to the back burner. In fact, you know what I'll do? I'll wish list your game, and I'll keep it in the back burner. Right? If I get to it on Game Pass, fine. Right? But we got Redfall coming. Starfield's right around the corner. It's in September. Who cares? Dude, I know a lot of you guys have 100% of these games. I play games that are 100% games, right? So I put that on the back burner, dude. And I'm sorry, dude, you wasn't here. You wasn't here day one, right? And hat tip to Dea because she was talking about that on Sega Man's uh, podcast with you when they did that one on one, dude. I thought Dea was preaching, man. I was saying amen after just about everything she was saying. And to be honest with you, man, I'm just like, dude, you wasn't here day one, bro. I mean, no hate, and I might like a game and stuff like that, but I got other choices, right? So if a developer does that, dude, no hate at all, dude. You made a choice, choices were made, but other people are making choices, and that's something that they need to factor in. Because I'm telling you right now, as Michael Pachter did a good breakdown and a great analogy of, he was comparing it to cable. I think you did that last night, Unlimited. He was talking about cable, right? The difference between cable and streaming, how streaming and Netflix basically, just shook up the entire industry. It basically killed cable. And even before Netflix, dude, I was a cable card, dude. I was paying like $150 for my cable, and I was barely watching it, dude. And the problem with cable, as opposed to Netflix or streaming, is streaming you could do it whenever you wanted to. I was busy, man. I couldn't sit down and the DVR function that they had was crap, right? And I couldn't sit there and watch a show, right? I just didn't have the time. Whereas when I can pick a time like a weekend and just with Netflix, dude, and just like bum rush an entire season or something, right? And that's what ended up changing the market. And so that's what Michael Pachter was alluding to, and that analogy that I was making as far as Game Pass and Netflix, dude, right? And that's a real threat. And this is why he was saying, man, Sony's in trouble. This deal goes through, and he did say it was. Well, Dustin did bring up the stock sell from Warren to put Pachter in his place. Pachter's like, who knows what Warren does? Yeah, he did. That was Berkshire or whatever. Yeah, I mean, he can do that, but I mean, Michael Pachter is kind of like, yeah, I don't know what those guys do. If you didn't know, dude, Pachter kind of has an ego, right? Which I'm fine with, man. Just give me what you know. I can disseminate, and I can discern for myself, what it is you're saying, and how I can use it and how it helps me. He seems like a super passive aggressive dude. Factor, no, like I said, dude, he has an ego. He does. He was really bad back in the day, man. In the G4 days, when people like Pachter and Cliffy B, who I love still, right? When these guys were becoming more than just financial analysis and gaming programmers, dude, these guys were becoming something of celebrities because gaming, of course, kept on growing and growing, right? It created its own type of celebrity, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm into pop culture, so that didn't bother me at all. Yeah, Dustin. Yeah, Pachter is totally what? Whistling? Yeah, let me know what that is, bro. Break it down for me, brother. Pachter's a good wake up call for people who don't pay attention. Yep, that the buying public is replicating from other medias like movies and music. It's the same trajectory, right? And that's why I credit to Microsoft for picking up on that as well. He made this great analogy about Windows, how he pays for Windows. He was saying that he buys like a PC every 3 years, or he used to buy one every 3 years. So he would get the latest version of Windows, and then Microsoft got smart, and I know this because I do that. I subscribe to Windows, right? Or I subscribe to that service. So now instead of charging you $400 to $500 for that one version, they put it in subscription. So now they're getting $100 out of you every year. And then he said like his son uses it, his daughter or his wife uses it. He probably pays for all of that too, because he's basically saying like he spends like $400, $400 a year on that subscription service. And how Microsoft looked at that, and probably that's why you have Game Pass. People forget, dude, that Xbox belongs to Microsoft. And when I say people forget, it's people that should know better. The average person, I'm not talking about the average person. I'm talking about like these so-called journalists, these gaming journalists, or people that have been playing games as long as all of us has, from way back in the day. Right? You've been in this industry long enough. You don't need a degree in gaming. You don't need a degree in finances. You don't need a degree in anything, dude. It's true. Dude, I've been playing games for over 40 years, dude. It's just the experience. When people Google stuff or when people talk about events and stuff like that, I don't have to worry about that, dude, because most of that stuff I was there. I was there on 9999 at the Dreamcast launch. I can tell you some crazy stories, dude. It was a good time. It was a blast. But that industry, the industry is not the same, dude. It's very rare that I see people waiting online in GameStop and stuff like that. These businesses are shutting down. Though I don't buy all his projections, they do make sense. Yeah, and take everything he says with a grain of salt. Even the stuff from the financial perspective, like some of the stuff he's saying about what could happen with Sony, I agree with him. But there's things that Sony can do to change course. But like him, I agree with what he was saying that I don't think Sony will, because it's hard. It's like the saying goes, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, and that's Sony. Sony doesn't want things to change. This is why they're fighting this deal so much, dude. This is why they're doing what they're doing, man. It's not to help consumers. It's not to help their fans. Dude, they screw their fans at every opportunity. And then their fans have the nerve to come over and talk to us about Phil Spencer and what Phil Spencer's doing. Don't worry about Phil Spencer. We worry about Phil Spencer. Guys like myself and E-Rock have talked about some of the stuff that Phil Spencer does that we don't like. Now we don't hate on Phil. We give Phil his due, dude. Because it doesn't behoove us to hate on him just to hate. I mean, the dude's running the company that we buy the products, so we want him to do the best. We want him to excel. But there's some things that Phil does that I don't agree with. Right, and one of them is allowing Sony to be around. And Phil is looking at it, and I know he's playing 4D chess, guys, right? But Phil is a nice guy, and there's certain things that tick him off, and I wish that he would get other things to tick him off, because I really do think, dude, Sony is just holding us back at this point. I'm just being 100%. First time being here. Yeah, thanks to him, man, dude. I appreciate it. Hear great things about you, Sega from Sega Man. Yeah, dude, Sega Man. Yeah, thank you again for being here, and shout out to Sega Man. Yeah, that dude is the only thing. The only thing I'll say about Sega Man that drives me nuts is when he does his collection videos, man. Because I get sad because I used to have a pretty big collection, but I sold it all, and so I get reminded of that every time he did a really awesome Sega CD collection. But Sega Man is a real deal, dude. He's a good brother. Dude, he's straightforward. He's honest, dude. And I love when, there's times where he's not talking and stuff like that, and just out of nowhere, dude, he'll just lay like a one-liner that just has me rolling. So I definitely, yeah. Shout out to you, man. And shout out to Sega Man. If he jumped in this podcast, I'll see if he wants to jump in, man. Because I definitely respect his opinion, dude. Here. Oh yeah. I know what you meant, brother. Don't worry, man. I'm not a grammar Nazi. Yeah, Sega for good for Sega Man. Great takes on the console stuff to keep it real and guess what's happening. Yeah, dude, we try to, again, because I forget who was saying that last night. See, I'm old, guys. I'm old, man. I can't remember, but was it Unlimited or probably it was E-Rock? But we were talking about that last night, dude. When you hear some of these guys talking about the industry, like for me, when I critique Microsoft, like for example, right, Microsoft, in their infinite knowledge, when all this stuff with Ukraine and everything was going on, and everybody was boycotting Russia and stuff like that, then Microsoft shut off access to their software and stuff like that to the people in Russia. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why they would do something like that. Now, whether you agree with what's going on, that's not the point. To me, it's kind of like, that's your business, right? And these are your consumers. To me, the people there really have no control of what their government does, because they're communists, right? And a lot of times, right, within Russia, the people suffer the most. So, when they do that, it's kind of reactionary to me. Now, that's out of the scope of Xbox, but that's something that like let's say they're trying to do the AKB deal, and if Sony was smart, which they're not, and if their fan base knew anything, which they don't, that's something that could be used against them. I'm not saying it's going to have an effect on it, but like if I'm on the other side looking at that, I'm like, look, something happened in Russia, and they just shut off they shut off access to their services. Would Microsoft do that with Game Pass? If there's something that they don't like, which I would have a personal beef with, if I'm being honest. But we can't even have those conversations because we're stuck on stupid with these guys. Again, like I just said, when you have Sony the way they are, man, we can't get past any of this kind of stuff because it's the same thing all the time with them. That's why I don't have to listen to a lot of people nowadays, because it's just rehashed all the time, dude. There's nothing new that we're talking about. Like Daya was saying, like, she wanted to start doing videos where we're talking about more talking about more about Xbox and in a positive way. Let's talk about the games. Let's talk about the services. Let's protect our investment in their ecosystem. So some of that, I'm going to have to take Xbox and Microsoft to task for some of the stuff that they do, right? Again, I've said this on the channel, and I did a video last year about the storage, and then there's these bigger Xbox channels or supposed Xbox channel. Nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it until like 10 months later, 10 or 12, almost a year later, which I found ironic, because if they're playing Game Pass, if they own the Series X and the Series S like they supposedly do, and they're playing Game Pass on a level that most people that love the service is playing it, then that's the storage issue would have struck you right away, especially if you have an S, right? And then the solution that they have is to pay almost $300 on the S. You have to get a bigger card. I have it. I kind of offset the cost of my Bing thing, but I still paid some real money for that stuff, dude. And so, that's something that should be addressed, man. That's almost. So, I'll be honest with you guys, dude. I'm just gonna be honest, man. That's like Sony level stuff that Sony used to do back in the day. If you guys didn't know, man, Sony is the reason why we have the term vaporware. Sony is another reason why we have the term proprietary. Businesses were doing that, but the level at which Sony did that kind of stuff, and I'm not just talking about PlayStation, multi-tap, right? Right. Everybody knows Xbox came with 4 ports because they saw the future, right? They put a hard drive in their console. They saw where the industry was going. You know who also saw that? Sony. You know what they did? Right? They put 2 ports in the front of their console, and then they sold a multi-tap. And Sony does that stuff all the time. I know this, man, because I used to buy their electronic stuff, but I had a friend that was hardcore into production at the time, and Sony's one of the biggest companies at the time, so he would use all their equipment, and they had great stuff, right? But then, like, he'd have like recorders, man. You can only use their specific things. Apple does the same thing now, which Apple is able to get away with it on the level that they do, right? And of course, we all have consumer choice, guys. So plan accordingly. But that's just the way it is. And then for me, I'm like, yeah, but we can't have these conversations because we're still stuck on Xbox has no games. Xbox is stupid. They don't know what they're doing. They're going to go bankrupt. Oh, and they're also a monopoly. There's these narratives that we have to deal with. Yeah, thanks to him, man, bro. Appreciate it. Nice, great to hear it. Yeah. Let me see. Anything else, dude? I should open up my. Let me go to my YouTube channel, dude, because I think this thing is like. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not seeing the. I don't want to be missing the comments. Let me try and open this up real fast. Here we go. I'm gonna open my YouTube just to make sure I'm caught up. Oh, okay, so it's going. And let me check my messages real fast. Okay, we're good. We're good. I'll stick on the StreamYard just to be safe. Yeah, so if you have not watched it, man, highly recommend. Again, I'm not promoting his channel or telling you guys you have to subscribe, but it's good. It's always great to get different perspectives from time to time for stuff that's outside. There's times I watch Colin Moriarty's channel, um, and not because it was pro Xbox or he had pro Xbox news, but just because some of the industry stuff when he was having a moment of clarity, which is few and far between, like a lot of these other people, right? Um, but when they do, man, it's always good to get information from different perspectives and stuff like that, dude. Just so you're complete, man. I end up watching some of these channels or going to some of these channels when there's big news, just so I don't want to keep out of the loop and kind of get a feel of what the community is talking about. Now, of course, as I'm listening and I see them going down that same old path, same old road, you know, because given everything that's coming out, you don't see anybody doing apology videos that need to. And I'm not talking about Dreamcast guy. And I'm not talking about those nut jobs, right? I'm talking about the guys on the Xbox side, like Matty Plays and all these other dudes, man. They're supposedly pro Xbox. Of course, they'll shift that, right? They'll be like, oh, but I own this and I own that. I've been playing games all this years. I was like, well, then focus on being a gaming channel. There's this one channel, I think it's called like Jim Wood or something like that, Wood Gaming or something like that, and a channel like his, right? His channel, he covers all the platforms. He'll touch on stuff like especially if it's the politics of gaming stuff like that, but he still keeps it like pretty uniform, right? So he does stuff in general, which I can appreciate. So I'll watch his channel, right, to get a generalized perspective, right? So I'm not missing anything. But again, dude, if a lot of these dudes, man, you remember what they were saying like last year? In fact, they say it all the time, right? When Sony does something and then it makes the news, right? Then these are the first guys like Rand and all these guys. They'll sit there and it goes, oh, that's what Microsoft needs to be doing. And the great thing about Microsoft that I'll give them 100% credit for, because I didn't like some of the stuff that they were doing, even when Phil took over, man, like the high road stuff and everything like that. One of the things I will credit Microsoft doing is that they started looking at their own analytics, and you can tell, right? They started looking at it. They're like, look, we've addressed, which they did, right? We all know this, right? We didn't like the price. They lowered the price. They got rid of the Connect. They made a more powerful system. They started working with indie developers. Every single thing that people said was wrong with Xbox, and if they would only fix that, right, then they would cop an Xbox and they would join the Xbox Nation, which we all know is BS, right? Right? Because we already know, like, if you're a gamer, Xbox had some things already, even with the Xbox One, that they had stuff already that if you're a gamer, right, you would have gravitated to that. Unless you couldn't afford it, you didn't have the money, right, or you were busy in your life, like some outside of the gaming industries something happening outside of the gaming industry that would impact, you didn't have the time, real world stuff. That's understandable, dude. But if you have time to game and you have multiple consoles and you're a multiple console owner, right? The thing I say this because most people now aren't multi console owners because they do have a bias, right? A multi console owner from back in the day is you have all the consoles because there's different things on every console that you want to play. And of course, um, this was more likely back in the day because each console had a particular title that was specifically made for their console. You know what I'm saying? Right? Nintendo's a great example. Like their controllers, right? They would get dinged on their controllers because if third parties would have to work around their controller, right? To make their game work sometimes, and sometimes it didn't work. But their controllers were built for for their games, which was awesome, dude. That Z button, I think was what was that? The 64? Is that on the 64? They had that Z button. Absolutely love that, dude. That thing looked like a batarang the way it fit in your hands, but it was perfectly fitting in your hands. Right? It was made that way so that you could play Zelda and you could play Mario, and that it would feel comfortable. Now, if he was playing another game, that might be harder, and that was something of that time anyway. So you would buy a different console. You'd have a Sega. You'd have a Nintendo. Get the PlayStation, right? For the specific things, like we all know, the Sony guys, people were buying PlayStations to listen to CDs. I know Sony guys get mad when we talk about it, but your dreams were trash. Battle Arena Toshinden looked like garbage. It was just cool for its time because as a tech demo, right? Because you're like, wow, the 3D. A lot of you guys might not remember this, but the stuff we take for granted with 3D, dude, back then that stuff was magic. I can speak to that, dude. I remember being in Circuit City and Best Buy right, at that time, seeing that stuff, and that's what blew me away, right? Is that it was the possibility. It was the wonderment of the possibility of where gaming was going to, especially back then, right? When you're going from an 8-bit or 16-bit or 32-bit to actual polygons running on a screen. So that was a big thing back in the day, right? And that was a game changer. But for the most part, man, you bought Sega because of Sonic and blast processing and all that stuff, right? But they also made specific games that cater to their image or to their console and then to their fan base. And this is why you had these different fan base. The difference is like Unlimited was pointing out earlier, right, is that we were all gamers, right? And Hebot talks about this at nausea, and it's unfortunate he doesn't get he gets views and stuff like that, and he has his place in this community, especially on the Xbox side, but in gaming in general. But this dude, Hebot should be way bigger, and if he had that amount of influence that some of these losers have, gaming would be a better place. I'm just being honest. I'm 47. I remember playing on Atari 2600 with games like Combat, Pole Position, Asteroids, Big Doug, Frogger, Cubert, Jungle Hunt, Space Invaders, Pac-Man, and Pitfall. Yep, me too, dude. I actually got an Atari 400, and the only reason I got that was because it was a computer. My grandmother actually saved up money and bought me that, dude. I had that before I had anything else. And then they had learning cartridges, and they had learning cartridges, and to this day, dude, I can tell you I can tell you the capitals of most states just because that's one of the learning things that I had. I had a math game, all this stuff. But then on that, I also had Pac-Man, like you said, man. I absolutely loved a lot of Cubert was my jam. But I like playing Cubert in the arcade. I'm an arcade person too. I'm an arcade rat, so that's the background I have. Um, so we're running. What time is it, guys? I don't want to be here too long. I think we're about an hour. Yeah, Hebot should be goaded. Yeah, dude. It's unfortunate. The thing with Hebot, man, and this is not a knock on him. He's just honest. That's his problem. Hebot is straight up honest, dude, and you see that, dude. I remember when he went on. If you guys don't know who Next Gen Zaire's program, dude, he lit that thing on fire so bad that he never got asked back. It's not that he was wrong or he was rude or anything like that, dude. He just outshines people, and people can't handle that, dude. Other people can't handle that, dude. Like when I do podcasts with them, I mean, I cruise, man. I mean, just like with E-Rock last night, dude. E-Rock was just on fire last night. Him and 100 comes in, and 100 is just being 100. So it makes my job easier, man. I feel bad because I feel like I gotta add to the podcast because I guess it's mine. All right, but I don't care, dude. I do. My podcast is. I'll try and tighten it up, but if my podcast turns into like the old Google Hangouts, which I love Google Hangouts, dude, because back then it was more real, and that's kind of like how I want my podcast to do it. I know I gotta tighten it up because we run long, and then the hours doesn't help the guys, dude. But I let them go, dude, because they're doing me a favor by coming to my podcast, dude. Especially they have to like take time. Like Sega Man, dude. Sega Man comes in, dude. Like he finishes work and he comes into my podcast, dude. And I love that dude. I love Sega Man, dude. He's always down for his brothers, man. And I always respect that about him. But yeah, E-Rock was just lighting stuff up, dude. E-Rock and Hunter got into it, dude, which isn't, there was one dude in there, I forgot his name, I think Cyclone, and I was explaining to him, look, dude, this is how they are. Don't feel like, because he kind of apologized, because he brought up the whole Will Smith thing. And so E-Rock and I knew that was going to happen because E-Rock and Hunter, dude, they had different opinions on that. They was going at each other. And I have no qualms about it. The only thing I told Hebot, we talked about it afterwards, and the only thing I told Hebot about the whole situation is I was just worried about Will Smith, dude, because I definitely, he got some issues he got to deal with. But through that whole situation, man, I told Hebot, look, dude, if there was a news story released that that something happened to him, that I wouldn't have been surprised. That's the only thing I looked at, dude. I mean, I grew up. A lot of these younger dudes don't know how big Will Smith was back in the day, dude. He's a huge star when I was coming up. Bad Boys, dude. To this day, I still watch. The one with the robot. I love that. I forgot. And Legend. I Am Legend. I love those two movies that he did. And he still is a celebrity, dude. But back in the day, dude, this dude was the man. Every dude wanted to be him, and every girl wanted to be with him. And I was a huge fan of Jada Pinkett Smith. And I think she kind of, and it's not. I'm just being honest, dude. Hollywood does stuff to people, and I think they bought hook, line, and sinker. I don't agree with some of their philosophies of what they want to do, right? But that's my personal opinion. But when you have people that have strong opinions and stuff like that, you're gonna bump heads. Yeah, Hebot is great. Yeah, I wish he was in the podcast last night, dude. I know we all know, man. Prayers to Hebot, bro. He's going through some stuff. I don't want to push him too much. We are going to do that podcast, and I know he wants to do it, so I'm going to make time. Hopefully, might even do it today if he has time. If not this weekend, then we'll definitely do it next week for sure. Because I definitely want to talk about that. If you guys didn't know, I'm going to start doing pop culture stuff, pop culture podcast. We're doing a combination of it on the Rick and Crew podcast, but it was just running too long, man, because the wealth of knowledge in the group. We're all old, man. Like, Two Man, what did you say, dude? You're like, Two Man said like he's 47. Yep, I'm right there with you, brother. Right. I'm a birthday shy of hitting the big 5-0. I'm talking Hawaii 5-0, man. I mean the big 5-0, 50. So, with all the stuff going around in pop culture, and I'm talking about not just gaming, but in pop culture as a whole, dude, we need more voices out there, and we need better perspectives. Because there's a lot of people just, as they say, grifting on things, right? People just doing videos like with the Xbox thing. There's some people that were legitimately mad. The only people I give a pass to is Bethesda fans because they're hardcore, man. My daughter's a Bethesda fan, man. And one of the trademarks of the Bethesda fan is they love you so much it hurts. These dudes love Bethesda so much. Like when they complain and stuff like that, dude, it's just a whole nother level, man. When I hear from Xbox guys, I'm like, dude, just when they're attacking other fans, I'm like, look, dude, that's a Bethesda fan. Let them go, dude. They in their hook, line, and sinker, dude. They'll buy the game. Right, and they might do videos and complain about it and stuff like that, but they'll put in the time, just like me, dude. I'm a Steeler fan, dude. They've had their ups and downs, but I still rock my black and gold. I posted on Instagram, dude. I bought one of the Series 2 controllers, and I got a custom one, and like my other custom Elite controller that I did a video on that back on the day. I didn't have time to do a video on this new one I got. But it's basically a Steeler controller, man. Rocking the black and gold. I did a different color scheme. And what I do, man, is I take the numbers of the players, man, that I love, man. Like I did the steel curtain defense on the first controller. I put their numbers, as you can have something monogrammed on there. So I did, Joe Green, Dwight White, Elsie Greenwood, and I put them all on there, right? And then I did the same thing with this one. But this one I did the 95. A linebacker core, man, because I was a big fan of the 90s teams. I mean, we won some, we lost some, but you could see that's where they did the turnaround. The 80s were a bit rough, right? Other people in the Central at that time was rolling us, but the 90s were good, and then of course the 2000s was even better. So that's the kind of stuff that I want to bring with the podcast, man, because I agree 100% with what Dea said. I just want to move on from all the negativity and stuff like that. So, yeah, guys, but we'll wrap it up right now, dude. I know it's running a little bit. Yeah, I'll do go another 10, 15 minutes, man. If you guys got anything else, just just add it in the comment section. I appreciate you guys being here. And again, dude, if you have not watched that video, if you're an Xbox guy and you want to hear the truth, that's definitely a video to watch because Michael Pachter just lays it out the way it should have been, the way that everybody should be talking about it, how to look at it. Because you have so much false narratives out there, you have false information. I know Other Zinc and Unlimited, and everybody's been talking about. I think it was Other Zinc that said this on Unlimited's podcast. Like what you're getting as far as information, you get a mixture of news and opinion mixed into one, right? And that's what a lot of these people are doing. They're not bringing you the facts. So there's some stuff that they're putting out there that Microsoft never says. And I know Microsoft doesn't share stuff the way a lot of people would like to do it, but in the end game, man, seeing their actions is what's most important. Knowing that Microsoft is actually supporting Xbox is another thing. When you have your actual company supporting you on that level as a $2 trillion company, like where I work, man, I'm a part of a department and ultimately a division, and then you have a hierarchy that's like way above us. And then when you start doing things and you're not getting the support, and then you have to do what you need to do to get certain stuff done. But when the people higher up, and I'm talking like 3, 4 levels above you, the big head honchos, start recognizing that, and then they come down and start giving you the support, it's a game changer, man. Stuff that would have took like a year, done within 3 or 4 months. Money was an issue, no problem, dude. Budget, here you go. You gotta provide, you gotta prove everything, right? Even the workload, you gotta prove all that stuff. But once you get that support, right? I'm not telling you guys stuff you don't know, right? I'm just expounding a little bit. Once you get that support from that higher up, dude, it's a whole nother level, dude. You're not limited anymore. You can do what you want to do, and it's just not about, Of course, it's good to have more time. Um, it's always good, that feeling you get when you're able to, especially in a creative market, right? That you can express yourself, right? And that's what Xbox has from Microsoft right now, to the point where, yeah, okay, I see a lot of people say, well, they said in the next 12 months, and then the launch is outside the window. But when you have like a $2 trillion company backing you, you can do stuff like that. And I'm a kind of guy, dude. Look, I tell you guys all the time, I'm a scorched earth guy, dude. I could care less what people say. If it was me, dude, if I was Phil Spencer, I would have been like, oh, you didn't like that? You didn't like that September date? Right? Okay, well, we'll do it in November. That's when we wanted to do it anyway. That's how I would be. Now, this is why I'm on a podcast in my house on the computer instead of running a billion dollar business like Xbox, like Microsoft has with Xbox. This is why Phil is the way he is, and this is why he's the man, right? And the people that he surrounds around him, right, all have the same philosophy. So they basically taken, again, like I said earlier, they've taken everything that they've learned over all these years, but what are we, 12, 13? I know definitely 10 we passed, 11, 12 or something years. Looked at everybody was saying, compared it with their analytics, looked at where the industry's going, did all of that homework, dude. So there's times I was mad with them because what I was looking at as Phil, I'll be honest with you, being kind of weak, it kind of looks like Phil and then his crew was just getting information. And then they had a roadmap, as Unlimited loves to use that term, right? That everybody was saying they wanted a roadmap. And they came up with a roadmap. And I trust that roadmap because they know things we don't know, right? And they've shown, right, gamers, not just Xbox guys, but gamers in general. Look, we're here for you. We're here for the developers. We're here for the publishers. We want to work with you. We want to give you the best deal. We want to give you the best equipment, right? And this is why when people tell, well, where's your AAA? Where's your AAA first party AAA content? And then Microsoft knows. Microsoft knew what Sony finally admitted that stuff doesn't fly, right? It's like a movie studio, right? It's just like what happened with Ant-Man, the latest Ant-Man, right? Which was stupid what they did with Ant-Man, because Ant-Man was never that big of a thing. I love I love Ant-Man 1 and 2, right? But the reason I love them is the reason why it's not the most successful Marvel movies. It's the same reason, like back in the day, I used to read all the B and C list characters. Some people that wasn't even on a map, right? It's either the artist, the creative story, the world building, all that stuff, right? But that doesn't make for good business, right? And so Microsoft was looking at that and I was saying, well, people say they want these AAA games, that's what they'll buy, but ultimately they don't. And again, with the ABK deal, Sony finally admitted what we all knew, right, is that they don't make any money, right? So there's two narratives that were proven that I don't, they lie. They lie. They don't have no I don't care how much times they say that whatever their user base is or their installed base is. I don't believe them one bit. That's one. Number two, yeah, they don't sell as many. And hat tip to Hebot, who was breaking it down, right? Hebot even went the distance and was saying how they don't, right? Hebot went into this tirade about, and it was righteous indignation what Hebot did. Hebot went in there and he was like, because if you look at it this way, right, you sell only 2 million on launch day, then you're selling it, and then it gets a discount, right? Like we see that we on Xbox. That's why I don't complain about the price on Xbox because you can just wait till there's a sale. Microsoft has look every week. Microsoft has a sale. It's almost to the point where I'm like looking at Microsoft like, look, dude, or Xbox, and say, look, have some pride, man. This thing was like, this is one of your best games, or you can charge a little bit more for it, right? But that's their business model, and they know what their business model is, obviously, right? But when people was telling them, look, buy studios, you need to come up with your own content. When the numbers aren't there, where there's no justification for it. But what did Microsoft do? Right? Microsoft said, okay, here we go. And then they started picked up Double Fine, right? They picked up the team that makes the zombie game that's theirs now. They started buying all these different studios, which was awesome because they were addressing the issue, even though they knew that wasn't the problem. But they also did it with the intent of, okay, we work with you for this number of years. We know how you are. We know what you want to do. We see a path. Phil Spencer has said that in the Microsoft documentary, right? He says you don't buy a company to make you better. You buy a company because to help them make them better, which in turn can make you better, right? Giving other people options and stuff like that, giving you different avenues to enjoy gaming. This is why I like having, and this is the way I game anyway. So I know not everybody's like this, but I love having stuff like Pentiment. And they have a potion or alchemist maker or something, some rinky dink kind of a game on there that I actually got addicted to, right? That I actually had to go watch videos because as I played it, I was like, oh, this seems pretty, like a time waster. And I like it. It's kind of cool. I love sim stuff, right? Like Power Washer and stuff like that. But then as I was moving on in the game, dude, that stuff was getting technical. I had to go get a video, look at a video. So how did he figure this stuff out, man? I had this guy on there. I don't know how he knew how to do this stuff. He was, and even then, when he gives you like he's giving you the formula and stuff like that, there's stuff within that game you have to do. It's not going to be 100. You can know what potions to mix what you need, right? And then there's also a business element to it, right? You have customers and stuff like that. Such is the world of gaming now, where something doesn't fit in one genre. It's multiple genres all in one, right? To give you replayability, right? To give you different genres in one to be like you're not wasting your money, to make the game a little bit more built out, stuff like that. I love games like that. And then you take all that and you just stuff it in Game Pass. Oh, by the way, here's an RPG that'll take you 80 hours to finish. Oh, by the way, here's the entire Mass Effect trilogy or Master Chief, Halo Master Chief Edition, right? Where do you have the time, right? The concerns with Game Pass are great problems to have. They are problems because, like, again, I'll reference Dea in the segment. I wish Dea was on this podcast. Dea made some excellent points when she was talking to Sigma, where she was talking about that, how Microsoft, when they look at Game Pass, they have to do specific things, and one of the things they got to look at is not stepping on each other's toes with their own product. I'll even go a step further because I think Microsoft needs the content. I go a step further and even say the third party content because they're making deals with third party, and I'm pretty sure some of the deals isn't just money, right? Some of these deals is to get people like they could leverage Game Pass, right? Let's just think about it. Okay, we have 25 million subscribers, right? What you can do is you can put it on there, and then you have more people playing it, and in turn, and then they'll show their analytics. Like Sarah Bond likes to talk about how they were using that to show people, look, there's people actually buying the games now as Game Pass expands, right? And there's more games going in there. The subscriptions have to match up. This is what made Netflix successful, and I can speak on this because I was like a day one Netflix guy when they were doing the videos. In fact, I was one of the customers that would basically write back my comments. And I didn't like Netflix when I first started because I live in Hawaii and it took forever to get the videos. And what would happen is I would like watch series and stuff like that I couldn't finish on television. So I would just get their series. But at the time, remember, you can only rent like a certain amount of time depending on what type of tier you were in. So I got the ultimate tier, right, where I could like I think it was like 4 or 6 discs. Can't remember off the top of my head. But what you would do is, right, you would send and you would get it out, right? You wouldn't get every disc in the season, so you start watching, then you would send one back, and then you would keep it flowing and stuff like that. And what would happen is sometimes they would send back the disc that I already watched, or the disc was scratched. There's things like that they have to get over, right? And so Netflix was in a slam dunk in the beginning. And in fact, there was rumblings, of course, that they weren't going to make it, right? And more so for Netflix because they were their own company. At least with Xbox, we have Microsoft to back them, right? And so that's the issues that Microsoft or Xbox has with Game Pass. But as long as they start expanding that subscriber base, which Michael and I bring this story up because Michael Pachter spoke specifically about that, and he is one of the few people that talked about it. And I've been talking about it on this channel since last year. I did several videos on it, the road to 50 million, the road to 100 million, right? I talked about that kind of stuff because I understand how Netflix works, right? We consume pop culture, right? This is a streaming type of service, and content is king. This is why Netflix will never be toppled. The only people that can hurt Netflix is Netflix themselves, and they've done some stupid stuff, but they've course corrected, right? They put some content on that people didn't like and told them they didn't like, but hey, we're Netflix. We're not gonna listen to you. We'll do what we need to do, and people revolted, and it became a perfect storm because then the economy went bad and it went to the pandemic, right? But people was not working and it exploded, right? And so what they ended up doing though, they did see that they felt that ding, they looked at that how that could hurt them, and then they realized that they can only grow so much. So it's an amalgamation of different things, and they course corrected. They stopped being political, which was number one. Then they start looking at their content, right? And they started to realize, look, we have to put out content that people like. It has to be entertaining, stuff that'll bring them back. They started becoming the old Netflix. When you're hungry, right? Just like in Rocky, right? From Rocky 2 to Rocky 3, where he lost that, the whole, Eye of the Tiger thing, right? When he lost to Clubber Lang, then he brings it back at the end because people sometimes, man, when you sit in at the top, dude, you lose that hunger, and then you become weak because you become satiated, right? You start to get lazy, right? You're not realizing, you're not keeping up with everything as everything's changing. As Pachter was saying with Sony, Sony's either they're doing they refuse to acknowledge it or they're not smart enough. Either one is bad. If we're being perfectly honest if we're being perfectly honest about the situation, and that's going to come to bite them in the ass, you know, sooner than later. If I'm being honest, right? But that's the element, and that's why he spoke with the confidence that he did when it comes to what Microsoft is doing and why the ABK deal is going to go through, right? So anyway, dude, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I see there's no more comments and stuff like that, so I think it'd be a good time to stop. Again, I appreciate you guys coming in, dude. I know we had about 6 people in here. Much appreciated. Like I said, dude, I definitely prefer the engagement. I'm borrowing Microsoft and the Microsoft talking point now. The engagement. But I honestly, I'm being honest, 100%, guys. And I know, man, a lot of you guys, not only like in this chat, dude, like Global and Two Man, uh, ADOS, they're definitely unlimited. I know a lot of you guys. I see you guys on everybody else's podcast, man. And the podcasts have been fire, and the chat. I'm sorry, the chat and the chats have been fire, man. I definitely love your guys' perspective, dude. It gives me hope. It gives me hope that there's gamers out there that understand what's going on, right? To the point, like eventually, this channel is not going to exist anymore, man. In fact, I'm trying to find things to keep this channel relevant, right? And that's why I'm going to just start doing the pop culture cast because it's something I like and it's something that's interesting, and I think there's something that needs to be said there. Right. And again, like Unlimited says, right, when the truth needs to be put out there, right? And then he does his videos and stuff like that. And yeah, dude, if you got Unlimited, dude, is fire. Dude, I love his channel, I love his videos. Um, Everybody in the community, man, they have their own perspective, of course. They bring it in different sorts of ways. I like that variety, just like Game Pass. I always speak on Game Pass, dude. Always trying to sell Game Pass, dude. If you're a gamer and you like to play games, there's no reason why you don't have Game Pass, or at least a Series S, dude. And don't believe all the BS these guys are pushing that the Series S is holding us back, right? And because that's not the point of the Series S. And Microsoft has talked to this ad nauseum, and then you have these journalists and all these haters jumping on board, talking stupidly about this kind of stuff. Because let's be perfectly honest with you, there's every other service has different tiers when it comes to product that you buy or services that you use, and there's a reason why, because most people don't care, right? But what people will buy this because of the price point, right? And that's all we need, dude. Like I said this last year, and I'll say it again. The reason why I need the subscriber count to go up and the normies to come in is to make that subscriber count go up. Because once Microsoft becomes 50 million, dude, it's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother level. When they hit 100 million, bulletproof. I'll always say that. They're bulletproof, dude. And what I mean by bulletproof, to the point where they don't have to worry about a lot of stuff, and they'll have leverage, to the point where people will not be able to ignore People will not be able to ignore them, like how these Japanese developers do, right? Or how people are trying to make conscious, good business choices by going with a company that, even though they supposedly have 150 installed user base, only like 10 million of the title sells, and people need more of that. Or for the live service stuff that's all coming online. Yeah, live service has been taking a hit, but that's just basically look, dude, things. That's just the way business is, right? You came out with a product, people didn't gravitate towards it. Other people are gravitating to other stuff, right? So what you do is you go back, either you drop that and do something else, or you go back and build a better mousetrap. That is the way of business, dude. That's the American way. That's the way we've always been. Now we need to get that back. You know, we need to get that back in our businesses and stuff like that, because we benefit as consumers. You have these people bringing the variety and stuff like that. Again, with Microsoft increasing their umbrella, which they will continue to do, man. I wish they would have talked on that. Like, I think they're running out of time, and I think Dustin would have probably asked him, because the AKB deal is such a big deal, right? That a lot of people are wondering if Microsoft is going to stop, and Microsoft has already said, and that's Satya, not just Phil. Satya is like, no, we're not done yet. So it has been nice to get Pachter's opinion on that. I'm pretty sure he would have agreed with that, not just because Microsoft said that, but as an analyst wise, you see what they're trying to do. Dude, it just makes sense to me. So seeing these guys like getting exposed, seeing Xbox slowly but surely flipping the script, seeing all the narratives change, enjoying the games, all of that, dude. It's been a great year so far. It's been a great 2 years, at least for me. I know some guys might not agree, but I love the last 2 years especially. Um, and this year has just been, dude, just nonstop, dude. Even the hate that Microsoft and the Xbox and Game Pass is getting, and the AKB deal is grading, is awesome. Even that hate, because it just shows, like Unlimited, and we're saying on the podcast. I think Unlimited said this himself, dude. It's just like, or E-Rock might have said this, dude. Without Xbox, there would be no news. Xbox controls the entire cycle. Right? There's no news without Xbox. I used to watch like the Great Space Coaster. This guy Gary Gnu, and he says, "No news is good news." And Gary Gnu, or something like that. He had this saying, and I thought it was funny because it applies so much today, man. Whether negative or not, like Unlimited said about the algorithm on YouTube. I can't stand that. But Microsoft dominates the gaming news cycle, dude. They dominate the industry. They dominate on so many levels. These guys will not acknowledge it. And then take an interview with Dustin, of all people, with Michael Pachter, to let people know, especially if you're an Xbox guy and you're kind of on the fence about the deal, or you don't know really what's going on, or you only get your news from these losers, right? You just watch this interview and you'll be fine. All right. So again, thank you guys for stopping in, man. Really appreciate it. I'll probably try and hook up with Hebot. If you guys are into pop culture, if you guys are into He-Man, most definitely. But we're gonna talk about all kind of stuff, dude. I'm gonna talk about Marvel. I'm a huge Marvel fan. We talk about Disney. I'm a huge Disney fan. And we'll talk about pop culture in general. But anyway, man, I really appreciate you guys being here, all of you dudes. Yeah, much appreciated, man. Xbox All In channel, we'll take it forever. We out.